Namaste. Good evening. This is Dr. Aparna. I am your emotional healing synergist. I am an Ayurvedic psychotherapist, a passionate infopreneur, medical writer, and a budding YouTuber. In my pursuit to address, promote, and propagate Ayurveda and psychotherapy globally, I come up with discussions every week on Ayurveda, mental health, psychotherapy, and related aspects. So, from the last three sessions, the topic has been Bhagavad Gita and mental health insights. So, today also we are analyzing some more concepts or essence of Bhagavad Gita through uh, while we are analyzing mental health aspects of Ayurveda through the lens of Bhagavad Gita. So, without wasting time, let's get started. So, in the last session, we had discussed many concepts. One of them was detached attachments. And see, with the understanding, you know, I have gained from Bhagavad Gita, and we all have you know I have explained whatever I have comprehended regarding the from the Gita, um, while we can redefine mental health from it. So what um, see, a healthy mind is one which is capable of responding to each moment of life confidently. This is what the gist of what I have understood or analyzed. See, a healthy mind is one which is capable of responding to each moment of life confidently. Those who have followed what we have been discussing would have understood that actually we live only this moment. We also discussed this in the last session as well. So we have no control over what happened in the past or what is going to happen in the future. So the only thing is that we actually live only this moment. So so this indicates that the mental health will have to be the outcome of training or practice. See, we discussed in the last session that Lord Shri Krishna says, explains Arjuna that there is no shortcut to control the mind. So, abhyasena tu kaunteya, he says practice. Practice is the key to self mastery, or to any mastery for that matter. So, to face each moment confidently, we must be clear of our goals. We need knowledge to find the path to the goal, and this knowledge has to be gained by training. And this path, we decide with the knowledge becomes dharma. First, we need some knowledge to find the path to the goal. So, first, for that, before we have to be clear about our goal. There needs to be clarity of the goal. Then we have to have the knowledge to find the path of the goal, and this knowledge has to be gained by training or practice. And this path you decide will with the knowledge becomes the dharma. That means your dharma, whatever your dharma is, whatever now I am doing is my dharma. You also have to train to gain the skills required to implement the knowledge. Otherwise, the knowledge will also be of no use. So, here Bhagavad Gita also says only with mere knowledge, without action and without implementation, the knowledge is of no use. So, to understand this, there is a Lord Sri Krishna gives the best analogy of a driver. He knows where he is and where he has to reach. Suppose a driver, when he let's say Uber or Ola driver, When he picks a passenger, he knows that where he is, which area he is standing, and where he has to reach. So the route is known to him, and he has the skill as a driver. So now he drives the car. When he drives the car, he does not think of the destination. He is fully concentrated on the road in front of him. So he does not keep wondering when the next turning is. So he turns only when he reaches the turning. So that will finally take him to destination. So what happens is, what we know from this is, we have to know where we are and where we have to reach. That means the route should be known, and we should have some skill. Now, instead of constantly thinking on of the results, we actually concentrate on the process. We live in the moment. So that will ultimately lead us to our destination. That is what is Lord Krishna saying from this. So the next thing is, uh, you can see in my background I have a picture of a turtle. So why do I have that? So Krishna explains in a shloka that one who is able to withdraw the senses from their objects, just as a tortoise, I have a tortoise behind. So, just as a tortoise withdraws its limbs into its shell. So, since here Lord Shri Krishna talks about the withdrawal of the senses, the shloka goes like this: Yada samharate chayam कूर्मो कूर्मोऽङ्गानिव सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणि इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यस् इन्द्रियार्थेभ्यस्तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठितः. So one who is able to withdraw the senses from the objects, just as a tortoise withdraws its limbs into its shell. So when does it do that? Tortoise, when it senses any fear, of any fear, or somebody is coming to attack, what it does is it withdraws in its limbs into its shell. So this is the way, this is an analogy to attain divine wisdom, is what is said. Yada samharate chayam कूर्मोऽङ्गानिव सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्य tasya pragna pratishtitah. This is what being said. So attempting to quench the cravings of the senses by supplying them with their desired objects is like trying to douse a fire by pouring clarified butter on it. So when we have desire for something, you know and what we do, when we hear of that, when we see that, and when we actually attempt to um, reach to the desired object, it is like trying to add ghee or butter to the fire. So, but the fire may be smothered for a moment, but then it flares up with redoubled intensity. That means fulfilling the desires of the senses does not extinguish them. So, just as offering oblations of butter or ghee in the fire does not extinguish it, so instead it makes the fire blaze even stronger. So, what is being said here is, these desire can be compared to an itch in the body. Suppose you have an itch somewhere, itching in somewhere in your body. So, the itch is troublesome and creates an irresistible urge to scratch. But scratching does not solve the problem. For few moments, there is relief when you scratch, and then the itch returns with greater force. Instead, if sometime one can tolerate the itch for some time, it begins losing its sting and dies down slowly. So, that is the secret for getting peace from the itch. So this is talked in ninth chapter and 19th shloka. So whenever you have a itch in the body, instead of itching, if you stay calm or tolerate that itch for some time, what happens is with time it comes down. If you itch that area, it will, for moments you will have relief, but the pain, the itch will return with greater force. So the same logic Lord Krishna says to apply for the desires as well. The mind and senses throw up you know madria desires for happiness, but as long as we are in the game of fulfilling them, happiness remains illusionary. So like the mirage, but we learn, when we learn to discard all these desires to find happiness in God, the mind and senses make peace with us. So an enlightened sage intelligently masters the senses and the mind. So what happens is when you have desire for something, as long as you are in the game of fulfilling the desire, happiness to us is just illusionary. But when we learn to discard these desires to find happiness in God, in Lord Shri Krishna, the mind and senses make peace with us. So an enlightened sage intelligently masters the senses and the mind. The illustration used in this verse is of that of the turtle or the tortoise. Whenever it encounters danger, the turtle protects itself by drawing its limb and head inside its shell. So after the danger passes, the turtle again extracts its limbs and head and continues on its way. So the enlightened soul possesses similar control over the mind and senses and can retract and extract them according to the needs of the situation. So here, an analyze, Lord Krishna is saying that an intelligent person or an enlightened person or a sage masters the senses and the mind. How to master? It is with practice. You know, as I gave the example of the turtle or the tortoise. So here in the next coming shlokas, for a healthy functioning of the mind, desires have to be controlled. This is explained in chapter 2 and shloka 60, 62, 63, 64, 65. So while thinking, or comprehending on the objects or understanding on the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment to them. Attachments give rise to desire, and desire gives rise to, and from the desire uh, anger is born. So the shloka goes like this: ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषु पजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधो विजायते. So, in this verse, Lord Krishna explains the progression of human emotions and behavior. It starts with, dwelling upon sensory objects or thinking of or reminding yourself up on the sensory objects, which leads to attachment. Attachment in turn gives rise to desire. Then, when desires are, desires increase, they transform into anger. So here, see, contemplation and attachment is like the words, the process of thinking on sensory experiences. When we focus on pleasurable sensory objects, we naturally develop attachment to them. This attachment can be quite strong. This can also be not only for a thing or a material possession, this can be for a human being also. When we think of a person too much, you build an attachment to that person. or it may be the attachment to a material possession, the attachment to wealth, the attachment to something else, lust. So attachment leads to desire. So then comes the desire and craving. As our attachment grows, it turns into a craving for those objects. This craving can be become powerful and lead to uncontrollable desires. So as a result of that, when our desires are not fulfilled, it results in frustration. When we desire something and that is not fulfilled, what happens is it results in frustration, which manifests as anger. So anger arises from the feeling of not getting what one desires. So this is the cycle of attachment, desire, and anger, as explained by Lord Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. So this is a cyclical pattern. So attachment leads to desire. Desire, if desires are not fulfilled, it culminates into anger. So this cycle can lead to inner turmoil and suffering. So there is another analogy explained, how to control, how the importance of mind control. So just as the waters of different rivers enter the ocean, which though full on all sides remain undisturbed, the person who is not disturbed by the you know increasing or incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the person who strives to satisfy such desires. So the shloka goes like this: Apuryamanam achalam pratishtam samudram apah pravishanti yadvat तद्वत् कामा याम प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स shantimapnoti na kama kami. That means, if I have to explain it in simple words, Lord Sri Krishna uses the metaphor of a ocean to illustrate the state of a person who has mastered his or her desires and senses. So just as various rivers constantly pour into the ocean, the ocean must have been frustrated, or the ocean must have been disturbed, but here yet the ocean remains calm and undisturbed. Similarly, a person who is not agitated by the ceaseless flow of desires can attain true peace. It is not that you will you decide today that you will not have any desires and from tomorrow you will not have. No, it requires constant practice. It requires constant calmness. I will tell you how to do that, because you ask me, everything is about how to do that, how to achieve that. Whatever I have understood, I will give you some of the techniques as well. So to understand this, the ocean of equanimity, so the analogy of the ocean highlights the idea of inner calmness and equanimity. So even though the ocean is constantly receiving waters from countless rivers, it maintains a profound stillness. Similarly, a person who can withstand the onslaught of desires remains internally undisturbed. So, flow of desires. So, desires here are compared to the rivers, symbolizing their constant and often uncontrollable nature. Desires cannot be controlled. When desires are allowed to dominate, they can lead to restlessness, discontent, and inner turmoil. So, we have to develop inner calmness to the desires and attaining inner peace. Lord Krishna suggests that the key of to achieving true peace lies in not succumbing to desires, but rather in mastering them. When one learns to manage and channel desires appropriately, it leads to a state of inner tranquility. So, the key, Lord Krishna suggests here, the key to achieving true peace lies in not succumbing to desires, but rather in mastering them. When one learns to manage and channel desires appropriately, it leads to a state of inner tranquility. So, material fulfillment versus inner fulfillment. So, the verse emphasizes that pursuing the satisfaction of desire in the external world does not lead to lasting peace. So, suppose you have material fulfillment, it might not lead to lasting peace. Instead, true contentment is found within through self mastery and spiritual realization. Through, we have to self master and spiritual realization. They also talk about how to do it. We'll see in the next things. So controlling the senses and desires is a central theme in the Bhagavad Gita. So it implies the needs for, we must have self discipline, self awareness, and the ability to govern one's reaction to external stimuli. So the significance of self control, mastery over desires, and the attainment of inner peace, encourages individuals to cultivate a state of inner calmness that remains unshaken by the external world. So, how, like, analogy given is the ocean, we all have, as I explained. So the next verse goes like this. So, thinking of objects of pleasure of the senses, one develops desire to have them, and not getting it gives rise to anger. Here, next, in continuation, Lord Sri Krishna has explained anger leads to delusion, and delusion leads to loss of memory. So, loss of memory leads to destruction of intellect, which leads to his own destruction. That means क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. So here we can actually, the shloka is self explanatory. क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः. Some, from anger delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. So sammoha, the memory is, there is delusion is confusion or the ambiguity. So from anger gives rise to delusion. Delusion gives rise to, you know m- memory, bewilderment in the memory is, it may be loss of memory, kind of loss of memory. When memory is bewildered, then intelligence is lost. So memory is bewildered is, it is, भ्रष्ट हो चुका है, बुद्धि भ्रष्ट हो जाना, something like that. So क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृति विभ्रमः स्मृति भ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो. See, buddhinasha. See, next is when memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when the intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. बुद्धिनाशात pranashyati, matlab this path leads the person to, the anger leads to, in the end, to self destruction. So here in this verse, Lord Krishna explains the progressive degeneration that can occur when one allows uncontrolled anger to take hold of their mind. So anger, krodha. So when a person succumbs to anger, it leads to a state of agitation, that means frustration and emotional turmoil. Anger clouds one's judgment and rational thinking. The power of a person to think rationally, you know decreases. Then what happens is, from anger arises the state of confusion and delusion. So in this state, a person's perception become distorted and they may lose sight of reason and reality. So um, they may lose control of the reality. Next, Prithivibhrama is the delusion further leads to a state where memory becomes unreliable. So it becomes difficult to recall facts accurately. So next what happens is buddhinasha. So with the memory in disarray, one's ability to make sound decisions and exercise intelligent judgment is compromised. So here intellect is compromised. So when the intellect is compromised, it is pranashyati is self destruction. Finally, the loss of intelligence can lead a person to make unwise choices, potentially causing them to become entangled once again in the circle of material existence. See, this verse emphasizes the destructive nature of uncontrolled anger. It illustrates how anger can lead to a chain of mental disturbances, ultimately resulting in the loss of clarity and wisdom. So it highlights the importance of here what is highlighted according to mental health aspects is uncontrolled anger is destructive. So the importance of managing one's emotions, particularly anger, in order to maintain mental clarity, rational thinking, and wise decision making. So the verse also serves as a practical guide for self awareness. By recognizing the detrimental effects of anger, individuals can take steps to cultivate patience, tolerance, and emotional intelligence. So we have to be self aware. So when we recognize the detrimental effects of anger, individual can take steps to cultivate patience, tolerance, and emotional intelligence. We have talked about emotional intelligence n number of times. I have at least 2 to 3 videos on emotional intelligence. Please refer to it if you want to know more about emotional intelligence. Additionally, it underscores the interconnectedness of different aspects of mind: anger, delusion, memory, intelligence, and how can they can influence each other in a cascading manner. So, Lord Krishna's teaching here encourage seekers to cultivate mental discipline and emotional mastery as a means to progress. That means here in the mental health, in the modern mental health also, mental discipline and emotional mastery is very important. So as a means to progress on the spiritual path and attain higher states of consciousness. So here the shloka goes like this: raga dvesha viyuktaistu vishayan indriyaischaran atma atmair videyatma prasadam adhigachati. So, but this is from the chapter 2 and 64th shloka. So, but one who controls the mind is free from attachment and aversion. Even while using the objects of the senses attains the grace of God. So Lord Sri Krishna asks us, see, here it is talked about, mind control is, emphasized. So a person who can control his mind is free from attachment and aversion. Both are bad. Lord Sri Krishna is highlighting both as bad. That means Lord Sri Krishna asks us to give up attachment and desire. He is referring only to material attachment and desire. Attachment here is referred only to material attachment and desire, or it could be, obsession with a person. as we discussed in the last session regarding detached attachment. So spiritual attachment and desires are not to be given up. So in fact, they are most praiseworthy. So they are to be cultivated and increased for purification of the mind. So the greater the burning desire we develop for God, the purer our mind will become. The Gyanis who who propound the worship of the undifferentiated attributeless. However, here Sri Krishna states, those who attach their minds to me, that means to Lord Sri Krishna, with unadulterated devotion, arise above the three modes of material nature and attain the level of Supreme Brahman, in the sense you can take it of the person who is knowledgeable. So Shri Krishna here, in like in the modern psychology, it is more deeper, and it is delved more deeper here in Bhagavad Gita. That means Lord Shri Krishna asks us to give up the attachment and desire, which is maybe the material attachment or attachment to the person, and any obsession. So spiritual attachment and desire should not be given up. So here, what is attachment and what is aversion? Here again, two concepts. So attachment and aversion are two sides of the same coin. Aversion is nothing but negative attachment. As you don't have attachment to something, you also should not have aversion to something. Matlab, don't hate somebody or don't dislike someone or something. You don't have to dislike something. Both are same. So aversion is or disliking is nothing but having negative attachment. Again, it is an attachment. So just as in attachment, the object of attachment repeatedly comes to one's mind. So similarly in aversion, the object of hatred keeps popping into the mind. So attachment and aversion to material objects both have the same effect on the mind. So they dirty it and pull it into three modes of material nature. So here, um, Stita pragna is what is talked about. Stita pragna means a person who is free from attachment and desire. So another thing is prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetasa hyashu. uh, but with practice we can do that, and being established in self, even when acting with senses, his happiness increases. So with increasing happiness, all sorrows disappear and you become a man of steady intellect. That is called sthita pragna. So this shloka tells us the advantage of having no desire. When one has no desire, he has no attachment, and he is free to be his self, his own self. That means his authentic self. So if you from so much, from the beginning of the session, you'll be like, Aparna, you're talking about, how to control your senses, how to, uh, have mind control. So how to do it? We are talking about it. So how to do it? So according to Bhagavad Gita also, Lord Krishna in various chapters, in various shlokas, gives valuable insights and techniques for mastering sensory control and mind control. So, one is dhyana. Dhyana is meditation. That means Lord Krishna emphasizes the practice of meditation as a powerful tool for controlling the mind. By focusing the mind on a single point or the divine, one can gradually calm the mental, clutter and achieve, inner stillness. The second thing is abhyasa, that is practice. Regularly and consistently, practice is essential for mastering sensory and mind control. This includes practices like meditation, self, and mindfulness. By cultivating these habits, individuals gradually gain greater control over their senses and thoughts. So, there is no shortcut according to, Bhagavad Gita. The abhyasa is for abhyasa of meditation, abhyasa of self reflection, abhyasa of being mindful. Being mindful is being in the moment, concentrating fully on what you are doing currently. If you're savoring the food, you're only savoring the food. You're not using social media, you're not watching TV, you're not reading book. If you're doing one thing, you're doing only one thing. That is being mindful. Next is self discipline, sadhana. So, implementing self discipline in daily life is crucial. Having a routine, planning your day ahead, you know, having, the clarity of goals. So, implementing of self discipline in daily life is crucial. So, this involves regulating one's behavior, thoughts, and actions to align with higher values and spiritual goals. So whatever the practices, you make, eat, healthy food, sleep on time, have your work time fixed, whatever the self discipline practices you feel sadhana needs to be implemented. The next thing is detachment, that is vairagya. Lord Krishna advises developing detachment from the outcomes of our actions. That means concentrate or focus on the process, other, not on the outcomes. By letting go of the attachment to success or failure, one can attain a state of equanimity, which is essential for sensory and mind control. The next thing which is suggested is yoga. Various forms of yoga: karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. Here, yoga is not just asanas. Asana is one part of the Ashtanga yoga. So, yoga in its various forms like karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga provides structured paths for spiritual wisdom. Each form of yoga offers specific practices and disciplines that help in mastering the mind and senses. So yoga. Next sixth is pranayama, controlled breathing. So, pranayama techniques involve regulating the breath to calm the mind and purify the energy channels. So, by practicing breathing exercises, individuals can gain greater control over both the body and mind. The next thing which is talked about, which we have already discussed, is mindfulness and awareness. So, cultivating present moment awareness is crucial for sensory and mind control. Being fully present in each moment allows individuals to observe their thoughts, emotions, and sensory experiences without being overly reached, attached, or reactive. Steadfast devotion. So, next is, devotion, bhakti. Surrendering oneself to a higher power with unwavering faith and devotion can provide inner strength and clarity. So, this also helps in decreasing the ego. So, the next thing is self inquiry. Vichara is what is talked about, or introspection, we can say. So, reflecting on the nature of the self and gaining self awareness. See, in the psychotherapy also, self reflection is always talked about. So what are, I had mentioned in a session that noting, journaling, what was your action, introspecting your actions, introspecting, or being aware of, you know reflecting on the nature of the self and gaining self awareness is a powerful tool for mind control. By questioning one's belief and identifying with the external self rather than temporary aspects, so individuals can overcome mental fluctuations. Next is, the last thing is satsang. So satsang is association with the wise. So, being in the company of Sat individuals, that means enlightened beings or spiritually advanced individuals. And this does not necessarily mean self proclaimed Babas. So, being in the company of the wise people who can have a profound impact on one's spiritual growth. Their guidance and wisdom can provide valuable insights into sensory and mind control. So these are some of the techniques. The practice of these techniques requires dedication, patience, consistent effort. So each of us may resonate with different methods. So it is not that every method works for everyone. For me, three or four methods may work. For you, another two or three methods may work. Or for some people, some other methods may work. So it is different for different individual. So we have to explore and find the practices that works for us the best in our mental health journey. So this I think is the path to self mastery according to Lord Shri Krishna. So here ends the session on I think mental health. We are analyzing mental health through the lens of Bhagavad Gita. So everything what I have talked about, which we have taken the insights from Bhagavad Gita, or also it is for me very surprising, or I was first time flabbergasted that everything is mentioned, in our scriptures a long time ago. We have to just open the books of Bhagavad Gita and go through the books instead of keeping them in the puja rooms and analyze the book. Every time I read, I get to know something, some new things and important points on Bhagavad Gita, and interesting insights. So I would urge you and request you to start reading the book yourself, because you will, when you read it by yourself, you will gain more insights. You can delve much deeper. So, if you also have started reading or have read and found something interesting or noteworthy, or if you want to share something, please do share it in the comment section. And thank you for staying tuned. I'll be back in the next session. Namaste.